So now in section 11.6, we don't have parentheses squared. See how there's no parenthesis anywhere? So one more time. 11.5, we had parentheses with a square. And those were the easy ones. You just do the opposite of whatever's next to x. So opposite of negative 1.5 be positive 1.5. And the same as the number off to the right, negative 4. So opposite, same. Opposite, same. Now, in 11.6, we don't have parentheses squared. So it's going to be a little bit harder to get the center. We still need to find that center, that middle of the U shape. That's still the most important point. How are we going to find that? So that center, first off, we got to get the x value. And I have a little formula for that. It's, no, remember the quadratic formula? How does the quadratic formula go?
Yeah, it's,
negative b plus or minus the square root of blah, 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 all over 2a, right? Well, if you just take that and cut out the plus or minus square root blah, 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 just the negative b over 2a, you got it. That's the formula. You can put that on your 3x5 card for the exam. We have the exam week after next, right? On Monday, week after next, 13th. So, yeah, x equals negative. So it's not so easy to find the x coordinate. And this is just the x. We haven't even begun to think about the y coordinate yet. You've got to use x equals negative b over 2a.
to get the point of vertex.
To get the vertex, that's right, to get the center. So now, what is the b? And what is the a? A is the 1. So remember, they're just a is the 1, b is the 8. Right? So it's negative b, negative 8 over 2 times 1. That's negative 8 over 2, negative 4. So the x value is negative 4. So that means it's negative 4 comma something for the center point. Tracking with me? So when they don't give us parentheses square, we have to do this harder thing to find the center of the U shape. Right? On the last section, they gave me the parentheses square. So for the parentheses square ones, like this one here, those are easier, right? All you have to do is opposite, same. And you've got the center of the U shape. But for 11.6, no parentheses squared, you got to do x is negative b over 2a. And now, how are we going to get that's just half of the story. How am I going to get the y coordinate? You got it. Plug it in, huh? Plug it in. So this is the x value. So just go up to that equation, y equals x squared plus 8x plus 7, and just plug in right there and right there the negative 4. Like that. And work it out. What do we got? 16 minus 32 plus 7. 16. Is that like minus 9? So minus 9. So that's the y value. So there's the center. So now we have the center of the graph. So we'll go to the graph now. Good so far? See how we find that center? So let me write that up for you. So here's an example from 11.5. And then from 11.6, no parentheses squared, x is negative b over 2a, and plug in to find y. Make sense? So different game plan, right? The rest is the same. The slope, rise, run, all that graphing, identical. So this is the only part that's different, is how you find the center, the x and the y. So let's go to the graph now. We good to there? Let's graph this thing. So what was the, it was negative 4, negative 9? So I'll write it up here. So y equals 1x squared, I already forgot, plus 8x plus 7. And the center is negative 4, negative 9. So negative 4, negative 9, it's way over here, isn't it? We good there?
You're gonna make a parabola?
Yeah, going to make a U-shaped parabola. So there's the center first off. Back 4, down 9. We good? So we got the center. Now, how do we do the rest?
You plug a number into the formula.
No, 1 over. Yeah, no. If you, did you see my method? I gave an easier method on my YouTubes.
I wasn't able to.
Yeah, that's okay. Math. Yeah, if you did the Math Excel thing, they show plugging in. You can do that. That's great. It's a lot more work though. I'm giving you something that'll save you a lot of time. All you have to do, you don't have to plug in numbers. Just use that slope. It's like a slope. That number in the front, very front. It's like a slope. It's rise over run. So from the center, you can just go up 1, over 1. And you can go over 1 both directions because the U-shape opens both directions, huh? And there it is. You're done.
A to get your slope?
Yeah, A. Exactly. Just put A over 1.
That's easier.
Yeah. That's what I'm paid to do. Make this easier for you, right?
No, thank you, because I was trying the other way and it's harder.
Yeah, they show plugging in, making tables, right? Yeah, their method's harder, yeah.
But I can see what they want.
You learned a lot of good stuff, I'm sure. But it's harder. Yeah. Yeah. So once you get the center, then whatever's in the very front is like a slope. A, as Manuel was saying, that's right. What's in the front is a slope, A, and just put that over 1. Rise or run. That means from the center you go up 1, over 1. And you actually go over 1 both directions because the U shape goes both ways. It's not like a line that only goes one way, huh? You go up 1 and right 1, left 1. Rise 1, run 1. Remember slopes? Up and over. Go up 1, right 1, left 1. And put your dots there. Connect the dots. There's your U shape. It's crazy. So how we doing? Is that making sense?
Yeah, and when you use the...
They're asking for the X. I'll show you how to do that. I didn't know they asked. All right, are we good? Are we good to this part, though, so far? Is everybody good on that graph? So we found the center, and we got the other dots, so we got the graph. Now they're going to ask you for the X-intercepts and the Y-intercepts. Let me go back to the question. And it says right here, it's asking X-intercepts and find any Y-intercepts. Okay, so that's a new thing. So what they mean is this U shape, as it comes up, where exactly is it going to hit the X-axis? That's what they want to know. And if it continues to come up, which it will, where eventually will it hit the Y-axis? So they want these 2 X-intercept points and this other Y-intercept point. They want to know all those points. Make sense? Those are called intercept points because they're where the graph hits, intersects the grid lines, the axis lines, right? The X-axis, Y-axis. So how do we find those? What do we do? Well, think about with me the coordinates here. This point, isn't he over 0, up something? I have no idea. Well, it looks like 8, but I was just guessing, But he's over 0 for sure because it's right in the middle, right? It's got to be over 0. And these 2 points, they got to be up 0. I don't know how far back they are. I mean, I made it look like 2 and 7 or whatever. I was just guessing. But I know they're up 0, right? Because their height is 0. Notice, intercept points always have one of their 2 numbers is 0. They've got to. That's what it means to be on the grid line. If you're on the flat one, your height is 0. If you're on the vertical one, then your right and left is 0, isn't it? It's got to be. So to be an intercept point, which is what they're asking for, this is how they'll ask for it. Right here, they'll say, give me the X-intercepts, give me the Y-intercepts. To be an intercept point, you've got to have one of your coordinates be 0. And which one is it? It is, in fact, the opposite one. For the Y-intercept, notice his X is 0. For these X-intercepts, notice their Y is 0. So let's make use of that in the equation. Are you tracking me? So if you want to find the Y-intercept, for a Y-intercept, set X to 0 in the equation because the X is 0. at a y-intercept. You're asking to find the point that has an x-coordinate of 0, aren't you? All right, so take that little equation. That's the equation that produces all those dots, right? All the graph is produced by that equation. All the dots that make the U-shape make that equation true. That's what a graph is. It's a picture of the truth. A picture of all the millions of dots that make that equation true. So if there's a point right here with an x-coordinate of 0 that makes this equation true, we can find it. We just take that equation, y equals x squared plus 8x plus 7, and we plug in 0 for x. Because this point here is got an x-coordinate of 0. So if you plug in 0 for x, what are you going to get for y? Isn't that easy? The other one's not going to be so easy, but this one's easy. That's a height of 7, so I was close. Let me bring it down a little bit. It must go right through. It must be over 0, up 7. And they want the whole coordinates, don't they? They say type an ordered pair. Yeah. So they want the answer 0, 7. The actual x and y coordinates of the point. 0, 7. Yeah, now we got to get the x ones. But are we good on the y? So in other words, you can always just grab this number out here, huh? Because you're always going to plug in x to 0, and those things are going to vanish, aren't they? Is that good? Okay, now let's find the x-intercepts. So, to find these two x-intercepts, what are you going to do? What do you know about an x-intercept? The y values have to be 0. I'm talking about these two x numbers. The two places that our U-shape hits the x-axis. They have to have a height of 0, don't they? Their y values have to be 0. If you're on the x-axis, if you're on the middle line, your height is 0. Your y value is 0. So I take the equation, x squared plus 8x plus 7. And this is just y in the front, by the way. They call it f of x or whatever, but it's really just y, isn't it? Remember, function letters are just y. And I'm going to plug in, what are you going to do? For an x-intercept, you set y to 0. So 0 equals x squared plus 8x plus 7. We good? How are we doing? So do you see the pattern? For a y-intercept, you make x 0. For an x-intercept, you make y 0. So for intercepts, you always do the opposite letter 0. Let me write that down. X-intercept. Plug in y 0. For y-intercept, plug in x 0. So it's opposite letter 0. And so. All right, so how do we solve that?
Factor?
Yes, sir. So what two numbers multiply to be 7, add to be 8? What times what 7 adds to be 8? 7 and 1, huh? Both positive. And then you set each one equal to 0. They each get their own 0 because if two things multiply to be 0, either one could be 0. We've done that a million times, huh? Jump the 7 over, jump the 1 over, negative 7 and negative 1, huh? But they want the actual coordinates. So let's write it as actual coordinates. So what they want you to say when all is said and done is they want negative 7, 0, comma, negative 1, 0. Right? Because they want x, y. Remember, both of those go with a y value of 0, don't they? Negative 7, 0, negative 1, 0. With a comma in between. There's the x-intercepts. And I was pretty close. By my guessing, this one was off a little. This one should have hit right there at negative 1. The other one should have hit at -7. There we go. And there we go. It's more like that, huh? So there's how the graph really looks. This is -7. This is -1. And we're done.
So with the Y-intercept, there's only one,
Yeah.
and then with the X, there's two.
Yeah. Well, sometimes. We'll see what else it can do. But yeah, the y-axis there, you can only hit that once, huh?
You have two pairs for the X-Intercepts, right? Two sets.
Right.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Put a comma between them, yeah. Exactly. We good with that? What's that?
But it's not always in here.
Right, because what if your U-shape, starts up here? Here's the middle, and it just goes up. Then where does it hit the x-axis? It doesn't. No x-intercepts. Or if it starts below and goes down, doesn't hit the x-axis. No x-intercepts. Or maybe it touches it only once because the center is right on the x-axis. One x-intercept in that case. Those are the other possibilities. So you could have none. It could not touch the x-axis at all. Could hit it in only one place. That's rare. Or it could have two, like this one did. But they're always going to have one y-intercept. You're always going to hit the y-axis once. Because these U-shapes always go out and up or down. Either way, they go out forever. They're going to hit the y-axis at some point. That all good? Crystal clear? Clear as mud? Here we go. Number 5. So, all right, so there's no parentheses squared. If there was parentheses squared, we'd do opposite same, wouldn't we? So I'm just trying to put this all together for you for the exam week after next on Monday. So you'll see both types on the exam. If you see parentheses square, you do opposite same. If you see no parentheses square, you do what? You'll have on your 3x5 card, when there's no parentheses square, x is negative b over 2a. Right? Let me write that out for you. When no parentheses squared, x is minus b over 2a. All right, take it away. Jump in and help. I would use decimals. So here's a is 1/4. What's b? 1. So negative b over 2. And a is 0.2. Just put it in as 0.25. 1/4 is a quarter. 25 cents, huh? I just think decimals are easier. So do that on your calculator. You should get -2. So -2. We getting that okay? On your calculator?
Yeah, because mine, if I times 0.25, and then
You got negative 1.25.
I got 0.5.
Over 2 times
2 times
0.25. You put the whole fraction?
Okay, so what I think might help you, if you're having trouble, do this on your calculator. You should get 0.5 on the bottom.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So -2. We good? That okay on the calculator? All right, so now we have x. What do the instructions say about how we get y? Plug in to get y, right? Plug in x equals -2. So y equals 1/4 x squared plus 1x plus 3/4. Again, I would make these decimals. So 0.25 x squared, which is going to be -2. And 3/4, what's 3/4 of a dollar? 75, right? So just plug in those, and then the -2 squared, right there, right there. We good? So I'm just plugging into x squared and x. And just hit the buttons on your calculator. I'm getting minus 0.25. Is that coming out? So what's the center? And -2, comma, negative 0.25. So that's going to be the center of the U-shape. All right. So now we can go to the graph. Now, this is a trick. I need to show you a trick here. This one's going to have a trick. All right, so you ready to go to the graph? You all dialed in with me? It's going to do something. That little slope method I'm giving, which is kind of a cheaty method, it does something weird here. So I'm giving you a cheat, so to speak. It's like a cheat code in a video game or something. But you got to know how to handle, basically with the 1/4 there, it's not going to be up 1/4. It's going to be 1/4 over 1. So it's special. So let me show you. So you got to use the cheat code, you got to know the cheat rules. So let's go back. So far so good, right? I'm going to write it up here. Y equals, yeah, come on. Y equals 1/4 x squared plus x plus 3/4. Okay, and the center is right here. Let's go find that. Back 2, down 1/4. So back 2, back 1, 2, down 1/4. How am I going to do that? Yeah, you know what? I don't like this. I need more room. So let me do it here. So what was the equation again? 1/4 x squared. So keep going here. Come on. 1/4 x squared plus x plus 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to do it right here. Okay, so my center is back. What was my center again? I forgot already. Oh, back 2, down 1/4. So the center is back 2, down 1/4. So back 1, 2, down 1/4. So just down a little bit like that, right? So back 2, down 1/4, not even half a unit. Just down 1/4. Good so far? That's the center of the U shape. Now from there, what are we supposed to do? Rise and run. My little trick so you don't have to make tables like Math Excel tells you to do. All this table making. So, right, I hope you benefited from that by watching the YouTube. So what do? So my little trick isn't real. What I mean is, it's not a real slope. Only lines have a real and steady slope. Curved graphs, the slope keeps changing, right? Like if you're on a roller coaster, it's curving up. You're getting steeper and steeper and steeper, right? The slope is not fixed. So this is sort of a gimmick, which works in a certain way to make life easier in graph and U-shapes. It's my own little thing. I haven't seen anybody else say it. Who cares? I'm sure a million other people have said it, but I did just think of it to make life easier for my students a few years ago. But you have to put this over 1, is my point. Even a 1/4. That seems weird, doesn't it? Normally we look at a 1/4 and we go up 1/4. Normally, if it was a real line, right, that'd be true. But this isn't a line. It's a gimmick trick. But it'll work. It'll work as long as you just stick that A over 1. This whole, the 1/4 is the rise. The 1 is the run. So the 1 is always going to be there, and it's always going to be your run. So whatever A is, whatever's in the front, that's your rise. Just rise that amount, even if it's a fraction, 1/4, go up 1/4, and go right and left 1. That'll always work. It'll always work. So if I go up 1/4, I'm going to rise 1/4. That's right to there, isn't it? Because that's 1/4. I'm down 1/4, go up 1/4, and go right 1, left 1. Boom and boom. Those will be points on the U-shape. And they will work for the graph. And it will save you time and effort from making tables like Math Excel wants you to do. And those are the X-Intercepts. Boy, that worked out very fortuitously. That's actually going to be, those are the X-Intercepts. We got lucky. Those are where it hits the X-axis. Do you see that? So does everybody see how my little slope trick works? What's in the very front, even if it's a fraction, is your rise. If it's positive, go up. If it's negative, go down from the center. So go up 1/4, 0.25, back to the main line, because I was only down 1/4. Go up 1/4, and then always right 1, left 1. You always put a 1 underneath that A. Even if it's already a fraction, put another 1. That'll always work. Up a fourth, right one, left one. Those will be dots on the U-shape. Math Excel won't tell it to you that way. They'll tell you to make tables and do a bunch of hard work. Not required. Just do this. Yeah?
So the one on the bottom is going to be the run one on each side.
Yeah, because the thing goes both ways. That's right. The one on the bottom is the run. And run means sideways. Yeah, like in a normal slope, rise and run. Rises up, run is sideways. Yeah, it's always going to be a 1. And it's going to go both ways because the U-shape opens right and left. Correct. So there's the U-shape. And there's the X-intercept. We don't need to work hard for those. Back 1, back 2, back 3. It looks like those intercepts are back 3, 0. And back 1, 0, huh? I don't need to do the hard work. All I need is the Y-intercept now, and I've got everything. How do we find a Y-intercept? The board says? Y-intercept? X0, right? Opposite letter. Intercepts, you always do the opposite letter 0. So X-intercept make Y0, Y-intercept make X0. So Y-intercept, plug in X0. So if you take this equation over here, Y equals 1/4 X squared plus X plus 3/4. And plug in 0 and 0. It's just going to be that number on the right, 3/4. Isn't it? So it's going to hit up 3/4. So that means it's going to hit right there at about 3/4 up. That means this is the point over 0. That point right there must be over 0 up 3/4 because it has an X value 0, right? It came from X is 0 and led to Y is 3/4. That's the X and the Y of the Y-intercept. Done. How we doing? Is that making sense? Is it making no sense? Talk to me. Let me know. There's things I can say to help. Well, I'm thinking about moving on from this section pretty quick here.
Y. Oh, you already had the value of Y. That's on the formula ABC. C is equal to Y
Well, because I plugged in X0.
to 0.
So bye-bye when I plugged in 0 for X, right?
Oh, okay. And then you have plug another number.
So for intercepts, you always plug in 0. X-intercept Y0, Y-intercept X0. So that's what they do at the end of the problem. So after you get the graph, the U-shape, then they ask you for the X-intercepts and the Y-intercepts. And to find intercepts, you always plug in the opposite letter 0. X-intercepts make Y0, Y-intercepts make X0. So I made X0, and they vanished.
Oh, the first is Y, the second is X.
Good on that. Quick, right? Number 9. Number 9. So here they give you a little word problem. They give you this little function. H of t is minus 16t squared plus 128t. H is the height of some projectile, and t is the seconds after the projectile is fired straight up. So they shoot something up. I don't know what, a bullet or a rocket or something. So they shoot something up, and it travels. So if you shoot something up, it's going to travel in an upside down U shape, isn't it? And that equation is an upside down U shape. Do you see that? How do I know? It's got negative in the front. So right, the sign of the A, if it's positive, that's a U shape going up. If it's negative, it's a U shape going down. So this graph must be a U shape going down, right? Like a projectile. Like if you hit a baseball, golf ball, shoot a rocket, whatever. Well, something that doesn't have an engine. Shoot a projectile, like the military launches artillery or something like that. Right? Anything that's launched with an initial velocity under the influence of gravity alone. We're doing a little bit of physics here. You guys like physics? I think physics is very interesting. All right. So what are they asking? Find the maximum height. Yeah, it's the center of the U shape. That's a fancy way to say find the center, isn't it? That's going to tell you the maximum. It's going to occur at the center. That's why we care. Okay. So how do we find the center of a U shape? Well, if they give us parentheses squared, they didn't. But it's reminding you again. If they give you parentheses squared, like last night's homework, opposite sign. But if they don't give you parentheses squared, what do? X equals negative b over 2a. So here's b, 128. Here's a, 16, negative b over 2 times a. So I'm going to figure the bottom out first, and then divide. I think it's positive 4, isn't it? Comes out positive 4. Everybody good there? Two negatives made positive. And really, we don't have x on this one. What do we have instead of x? What's taking the role of x? T. T is over here. So this is actually t. So in other words, that's time. It's at 4 seconds that this projectile reaches its peak. It goes up for 4 seconds, comes down for 4 seconds. It's at its maximum at 4 seconds. And what do they want to know? The maximum height. So they want me plug it in, right? Because I need the y coordinate, don't I? I need the height. I need the y. So this equation here, this is y. Y equals minus 16t squared plus 128t. So plug in that 4, plug in that 4. Y is minus 16 times 4 squared plus 128 times 4. I don't know. Minus 256 plus 512 is positive 256 feet off the ground. The highest that thing's going to be is 256 feet off the ground. At 4 seconds, it'll be at its max. See how we can get a track on an object? These are the calculations military would use for launching artillery. They fly through the air exactly in the shape of a parabola. This is true. That's actually the right physics formula. That minus 16 is half of the gravitational acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration due to gravity on what they call a free-falling body is negative 32 feet per second squared. So you get the 16 because they have it. It's a long physics story, but I'm letting you know that's the real deal there. That's the true equation.
So in the answer you put maximum height is 256 feet, and then at the bottom you put feet per second?
No, feet.
Just feet.
Just feet. 256 feet. That's the height, maximum height of that object. All right, we better move on. I'm a wannabe physics teacher, so I could spend too long. I'm doing physics with my daughter's taking a bunch of physics right now, helping her, and I love this stuff. It's very interesting. All right, but we don't got